Right, it was for a movie be aha edible Linus not TV so YouTube. Meaning Eddie Linus on that na sana music kind high Linus not TV so YouTube. Me say was oko YouTuber na was search Linus Nati combined word we are now the TV na account. Now I hit the subscribe button no. Na anytime be a video be abetum no. Won sabeka na we go so a share amai na obi so enya ehu kwane asan yeden asan hwe. Anope ya be PM e wo Accra na any one of the finest football administrators over Ghana and my friend Mr. Eric Alagidede, former general manager at the Nsoatreman Football Club, also former communications director at Carolina United, also CEO at the Football Association FC second division side or Eastern region. Now, see, I need on Nsoatreman any contract be having instead of a free agent, any club be so come we do, and I say we have the services no. Why ready so bad then? Onu be age man. You try to see my ban the interview na then. I share so. Me size here. Finest gentleman be on no. Mr. Eric Alagidede and I'm never fishing to come on. Uka one of the finest football administrators in Ghana anima. Media debia odinimu akutin edema na no so jo very humble anytime be we share bia no. Dey obesu nu abon komo no. O carry ni weje. Iti boss boko there.
Anos, Yamiado.
Nyamiado, miss me who you are. Me sure watch. We are very busy man. Say we President Muhammad Fiwa. We are very busy partner. Menya we there. I said it's me. I should come on. I should na Ghana football. AC corner, AC ban. So na me pacho ebusa for obi ahun ye there.
Obi ahoye pa.
Na mami bisa wo football administration say na e sha se edima wo.
Well, for Kofobe Bro, I have a background in shipping and logistics. Having worked at the port for close to 5 years. During my secondary school days, I mean, no more money me call and I go to secondary school between 1995 97 thereabouts. They know my prowess in terms of ball.
Okay.
And it will be a better.
Oh, okay.
As fate will have it, And yet, they are only be, but the passion has always been there from infancy, and it runs through the family. Along the line, when you say school, maybe account, But once the passion is always there, you could see we're making some good money at the port, but which means when you're fulfilled. Because passion no baby. Somewhere around 2008, I decided to venture into
full-time
football administration full time.
Okay.
Me quitting my more time, it was a
tough.
big battle, because if you make some good money from the port and all of a sudden you wake up, you are venturing into an area which you are not so conversant with, you don't know what the future holds. I remember my big brother, who is a professor of economics, telling me, Charlie, I agree that you need to pursue what you love doing best. But it's so difficult for you to just wake up because they know you can. Charlie, baby, I have to call on him and tell him, say, bro, send the coins kakra for bro, and he kept supporting me, giving me all the backing, telling me to go for what I want to do.
Sure.
And there's one person who seriously encouraged me, is Professor Paul Imhotep Alagidede, Professor of Economics, who is now with the University of Ghana. That's my immediate big brother. I come directly after. And he has really supported. I'm the engineer from 208. I'm the started. Somewhere around 2009, I had an opportunity to be close to the Mediama team. From 2009 to 2011, I was so close to the team, learning from, some top guys like James Esufi, who was then CEO of Mediama. I love my heart out to him because he really took me through a lot. Then from that 2011 period, somewhere 2012, I ventured into kit manufacturing, giving jerseys to Bochum, Chelsea, some few other clubs, secondary Azakets, and all that, So we've been around. This is how the journey started.
When it comes to football administration, you are a whole institution into it because um, administrating itself, administrative jobs are then outside the administrative jobs where you provided kits or that.
Yeah.
So it's a whole institution into it. But um, do you sit down and sometimes say, um, moving from the field of logistics to football administration, do you sometimes have regrets that you moved from a field where you were making much more money compared to where you are now?
No, there are no regrets. The only regret I sometimes sit back and have is that when I look at boys that I mentored, I mean, when I was at the port, I rose
Okay.
to become a deputy operations manager and subsequently an operations manager at Vor Consult, one of the first private shipping companies in Tema. You know, when I sit back, I see some of the boys that came and then were having tutorials under me, and you see them today. They've gone. I mean, in terms of, but life is not erased. I'm not in
Sure.
competition with
Anyone.
anybody, and I, I sometimes feel I'm fulfilled at where I am because this is what I really want to do, and I'm happy I do it and do it to the best of my ability. And I think that with that alone, life is not all about money. I have impacted a lot of lives, and sometimes I sit back, I get calls from some of the boys, and I get goosebumps. Sometimes it doesn't come with money, but at least for the fact that through me, someone has been able to get to where he is
Now.
with his talent. I think that alone, it's in itself a very big achievement. Maybe this is what God wants me to do, and so He brought me here to be able to help others hold their hands and take them to where they are supposed to get to.
Walk us through the journey. How did you get your first role with Carolina United as the communications? Because some of us, that was where we got to know you proper.
Well, like you keep saying, there were a lot of things I used to do. Most people thought I was even a licensed football agent
Agent. Yeah,
because
yeah.
I had some links here and there I was taking. So somewhere in 2015, Ifeanyi Football Club came to Ghana for a preseason tour, and they had an opportunity to play with Accra Hearts of Oak.
Okay.
I was there, and when I heard that the team was coming from Nigeria, I went there, and through the conversations, I got to meet the president of the club,
Wow.
and the late Dr. Patrick Ifeanyi. I mean, he passed on some few months ago and was buried. May his soul rest in peace. So we hit off into a conversation, and he said, "Look, I like this coach. He's very enterprising. He's young. I'm looking at the way he's taking the Hearts of Oak players through the warm-up session, and I like him." I said, "You want to take him to your club?" He said, "Yes, I will be very glad to have him in my
Okay.
club." So we hit off to a conversation. So after the game, I spoke to Yao Prepo, and I said, "Look, there's an offer in Nigeria.
Wow.
Would you want to go?" Then Yao was assistant to Kenichi
Kenichi.
Yasuhashi
That's
in
Akasofo.
Accra Hearts of Oak,
Yeah.
So we started a conversation. The man said, "Look, I'll be back." We exchanged numbers. He went, he came back to Labadi Beach. He called me. I moved there with Yao. We sat down, we had a conversation. And I think by then, the Hearts were having issues with even Kenichi and Yao. So the way was clear for him to join Ifeanyi in 2016.
16.
So he pleaded with the owner that he would like to come along with Kenichi.
Ooh, okay.
So two of them could work together because he enjoyed their working relationship at Hearts of Oak. The man called me, asked me, I said, "If the two of them are okay, why not?" So he agreed. Eventually, both of them, we went to Nigeria together. They picked us in Lagos. We flew to Anambra State in the man's private jet. We got there, sat down, had negotiations. I witnessed their contract for them. And then they started work. So I had to come back to Ghana. And somewhere along the line, um, Kenichi was making life very difficult for the man because if you know the Nigerian culture very well, the guy was a billionaire. He has so much money. Guy who owns two private jets, owns loads of companies.
Now let me chip in this. Were you by that time any means managing your Preco by then?
Not really, but he was somebody I had come into close contact with, and then we used to speak. And if he needs something that has to do with administration, he would just call on me, and I would do it for him. So I used to see him as a brother and all that. So from there, we developed that relationship, and it just hit off. So the man called me one night around 1 a.m. I remember I was sleeping when the call came. Then he said, Eric, are you asleep? I just woke up. I said, no, Oga. He said, I want you in Nigeria the following morning.
Wow.
Please, the travel agent is online. Can you confirm which of the flights you
Flights you
want to
want.
come with? There was a flight for 5 a.m. There was another one for 7 a.m. So I chose the 5 a.m. flight, and then I went. And he told me that they had consistently asked Kenichi, and if you know Kenichi very well, he's a guy who likes to walk. Even sometimes he used to walk from his hotel to the training grounds when he
Wow.
was in Ghana.
Wow.
And the Nigerian system is such that once they know that you are working for this billionaire, you could easily be kidnapped. And this is
Yeah.
what the man was trying to avoid. And Kenichi would simply not understand, So the differences were just so much that the man called me. I had to sit down. I asked Kenny. Kenny said there is no way he can stop all those other things. So we prefer to rather go back to Japan. So we agreed. Contract was terminated. They got him a ticket. He had to go back to Japan. So Yapreko assumed full responsibility as the head coach and started from there. So it was during one of those trips to Nigeria, and I met the late senator.
Okay. Okay.
I met
Okay.
the late Senator Brigidi. And somebody was telling him, I'm a Ghanaian. I had met Shehu Diku, the league management committee chairman then of the Nigerian Football Association. They have an autonomous, semi kind of autonomous league with a league management committee. And he was then the chairman. So it was during one of those lunch meetings that I was introduced to the late Senator Brigidi. And he said, he spoke to you. We're
Wow.
Ghanaian. I said, yes, I'm a Ghanaian. You're Ghanaian. I said, hey, now, one year old, I'm so with the coach. And I made the bar house, hey, more than because, say, we'll be to me the coach every Ghana. And the Abba Nigeria. Now, yeah, you take you crano, and yes, it's all the coach no coach. So that's where the conversation started. He told me, do I know a club called Karela United? And I said, yes, I know they are in Zone 2. And they are currently second on the league log. Then he said, oh, then you really follow
The
the
division
game.
one.
That is my team. I said, oh,
Oh.
wow.
Okay.
He said, oh, with your knowledge and the way you can move things, I want you to work for me. I said, oh, well, I haven't thought about working for a club, though, but let's see when the time comes. So we exchanged contacts. He got back to Ghana, sent me a text message. I responded. He called me one of the days. I met him at Trasaco. And that was the beginning of a father or a big brother and a kid brother relationship between myself and Senator Brigidi. He had so much trust. He had so much confidence in me. Then the team was just qualifying to the Premier League. So he just told me that, look, where we are now, we are almost qualified. You need to come for the coronation. Let's start. I want you to restructure this club. I believe in your capabilities. I'm sure you can do a good job. We sat down, we spoke, and that's it. I was never given an appointment letter. I was never given a salary. Never. Because from the time I became close to the man, Linus, if I tell you how much money he had given me, there was no way I was ever going to be able to negotiate a salary that would be up to that kind of money. Because any day I move my car from Lakeside Estate and drive to Trasat, which is just like a maximum of 30 minutes or 20 minutes, because I will use school junction, I will be in Trasat. A minimum of 20 minutes. And I am leaving that house. The day I don't get money for my fuel, that day, if there is no money in that house, I walk away with my 500 cents. That is the day I don't get money at all. So at Karela, I had a stipend of 2,000 for my data and for my call cards. I was never really on salary because I was being paid directly by the club. So this is how it
Please hold
started.
on. We'll delve much more into Karela. Um, we are still having a very nice conversation with Mr. Eric Alagidede, the former general manager for Nsoatreman. He's working us through his days at Karela or during his days at Karela United, where he served as the communications director for a period of, I think, close to 4 or 5 years. And so let's go deep into it and then let's ask him how he was able to revive that club from there in Zimaland to become one of the mainstream clubs during the 2017-2018 Ghana Premier League. How were you able to, I mean, bring all these boys together? The likes of Kayeke, the likes of Diawisi Taylor, if I could remember some of the names a bit. How were you able to get hold of those boys, and then you made Karela became one of those top sides, especially when you go to the Crosby War Memorial Park to play against Karela United.
What it is was that I was much more of a shadow CEO in that club, but it was just a title given to me so that I had come to meet people in the club. You don't want to just derail the efforts by virtue of the fact that people had worked the club through many years in Division One, and all of a sudden you join and
Take over.
you come and take over like that. I mean, it doesn't work like that, obviously. So I was much more doing a lot of the things. I remember most of these boys. I did a recruitment with him, and I'll give credit to a young man by name Kobna. Kobna is a scout.
Is it Emmanuel Kobna?
Emmanuel
Emmanuel
Kobna.
Kobna, yeah.
Emmanuel Kobna is a scout, and he's one of the top guys around. So I will go to Trasaco, we sit down.
Okay.
Then people, when a new club pops up and the owner has money around, you know how people
Wants to
get around. Everybody wants to show that he has a player. There is something. So people were giving us a lot of players.
Yes. Okay.
There were times I would sit down with him running late into the night. When I would be leaving Trasaco, it would be past 11 p.m. We'll watch some of the videos, we'll watch some of the players, their highlights, and we'll all agree that as for this one, it's not the standard we want. This one we want. And for players like Emmanuel Okran, Maxwell Bako, Abdul Ghani, and Ismail Abdul Ghani, and there was another one from Wow Stars. Okay, so these three were virtually introduced to us by Emmanuel Kobna.
Wow.
And having seen them win the Ghana Premier League with Wow Stars,
yeah.
I told the man, look, these are top-notch guys. Let's sign them. Okran was in US. We had to reserve the number 10 jersey
for him
and put it down for him. Then later, I negotiated to bring Sadiq Al Hassan and to come and complement the team. I remember I negotiated Keyeke Smooth from this academy at Kaswa, Mr. Kufuor's place. I'll remember the name, and Mr. Kufuor's academy at Kaswa.
I think Unistar
Academy. Exactly, Unistar. Keke came from Unistar Academy. And we brought in Taylor was from Gold Stars. There was a lot of tussle about Diawisi Taylor. Had to focus so much on his heels. We camped him at Trasaco for a month. He was just eating, sleeping, and not doing anything. So Hatofok didn't really know where the boy was.
Okay.
And the boy was sleeping at Trasaco, and he had everything. He looked at the life he was actually enjoying there.
There's no turning back.
There was no turning back, So after 1 month, when we had actually finished his registration and finished with Gold Stars, then he moved to Nzima. Then we brought in Jean Vital from across the border in Ivory Coast. So this is how we blended a lot of these guys with some of the guys from Safu Taylor and Gowe, players who played William Opoku Mensah and Godfred Yeboah. They played with the team from Division 1, qualified it. Hagan, the goalkeeper, and all those other guys. And Pim Da Costa was part of it. Then we brought in Isaac Quine from Dwarfs. And then we brought in Imuru Ibrahim. Left back. Before he joined Kotoko. Then he was with Borga All Stars. So I personally scouted him after he won 4 MVPs on the bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4. Home away. So was the MVP. So I just said, look, we need to get this young man. So we got Imuru for the left back position. We got Isaac Quine for the right back position. Then we had Abdul Ismail Ghani partnering with Pim Da Costa for central defense. Then we had Origa Jean Vital in midfield alongside Sadiq Al Hassan. We had Maxwell Bako
on the rings.
And then we the waffle that was played in Cape Coast, we discovered Wellington Kobo, who was then playing for the Sierra Leonean national team, negotiated and brought him from Sierra Leone.
Wow.
So alongside William Opoku Mensah, then we had Emmanuel Okran and all those other guys, super players.
It got to a point where whenever you get to Nzima and you are playing against Karela United, I mean, Crosby War Memorial Park became a fortress. What was the secret behind that?
It was a vow that we made before the league started, and we told ourselves that for us to be able to survive in the league, and I remember that decision was taken at Karela Hotel. There was one afternoon I was just sitting with a man like this and we were talking. People kept saying Today, I will break the ice on a secret that a lot of people didn't know. People kept saying when you cross the Ankobra, then
Then
definitely
you are going to
you will
miss.
lose. You know, it was something we were just sitting. It was a casual conversation. He said, "Look, the way I'm envisaging this club to be, I want it to be the Real Madrid of Ghana football." Those were his words. And one of the things we need to really do is to make sure that even if Real Madrid or Barcelona comes to the Crosby Award Memorial Park, we have to beat you. And any team that crosses the Ankobra,
Cobra.
so long as I remain a son of this Zima land, if you cross the Ankobra into Zima soil, we have to beat you.
Okay.
So it was just a casual statement, and he just made it, and then people went to town with it, and it put a lot of fear. And we were doing that very much. We used to instill a lot of fear in people, and once you cross the Ankobra, and there was no any other way to get to Zima
Zuma.
than to come through,
Through there.
unless you go through Takwa, go and use a very bad road and pass through the back and come, or you go through Elubo
Lubu.
and probably cross. You know, it's so we instill that fear in a lot of the clubs, and that is how come even the big boys, Kotoko, Hearts of Oak, everybody got to Crosby War Memorial Park and they got whipped just like that. I mean, it was something we sat down, we decided to throw it out there into the public domain, put fear in the clubs, and it worked. It
But,
was psychological.
I mean, if you look at all these exploits that yourself and then some other people made with Kyla, somebody might ask, did you have any form of, um, in terms of certificate or maybe qualification in football management per your pedigree and then looking at what you've done from Mediama to negotiating deal for your prep and then probably holding the position as a communications director?
I read a lot, and for me, that is a secret that keeps me going. I read a lot. I spend a lot of time going through. I look at best practices across the globe, and I sit down. I look at how people administer their clubs, and I learn a lot from there. Sometimes there was a time I had an opportunity to see Daniel Opare's contract when he signed with Real
Real
Madrid,
Madrid.
and I took
Wow.
my time. It was over 28 pages. The
Wow.
contract was over 28, either 28 or 29 pages. I had an opportunity to look at the contract. I took my time and I went through and I asked myself, what exactly are we doing here? You understand? So I read a lot prior to coming into this field. I didn't really have any educational background in terms of football administration. But I took my time to make sure that I studied. I look at the structure of Chelsea. I look at the structure of Bayern Munich. I look
Okay.
at how the Germans structure their teams. I look at how the Spanish go about it. I look at how the Italians go about it. And I study wide just to make sure that I remain relevant in the space that I find myself. I happen to have learned a lot on the job. I'm a very fast learner. If I don't know something, I get to it, I start learning, and I make sure that whatever I want to learn, I get to know much about it. I even do additional learning to make sure I become much more better than when I was getting into it. So for me, I take my time, I study. There are a few online courses I've embarked upon, but for me, those are really not football. It's a daily activity. And so long as you set out your mind and you want to become better, you can always be better, even with or without the certificates, because what others are doing elsewhere is what you just need to look at it, do it in a different way. There is nothing new under the sun. Whatever we are doing here, we are copying elsewhere. Every other thing I've done over the years, most of them are not my inventions. They are things I just looked at what others are doing.
Doing.
And then I told myself, well, it's possible to do it in a much more Ghanaian way, in a much more African way, so that even if someone knows that this one was done elsewhere, you will see that there is some kind of uniqueness with our culture in the way it can be done. But football generally has a universal language, and I think it should not be difficult for people to be able to look at the best practices elsewhere, copy them, and make it better.
Talking about copying or emulating what some of the top European clubs are doing, like you rightly stated, I mean, you research more, you read wide to get to have more in depth knowledge about football administration and also to get to know how structures and policies are implemented in these various clubs outside. Looking at how you've worked in the terrain, in the local scene for a very long time, do you foresee any club inching close to some of the policies and then implementations some of these foreign clubs are doing that is making their clubs, I mean, make exploits across the world?
Linus, it's difficult. I must be very honest with you because the way we've structured our football, I think a lot of the club owners are still probably looking at football as a recreation
Not
and
as a business.
football as a recreation more than a business. Because I can tell you for a fact that in the last 5 years, none of the 18 Premier League clubs has broken even. I don't want to talk about profits. Can any club tell us that the whole season we spent 1.5 million Ghana cedis? We've broken even. Nobody. So if you run an enterprise that is not profitable, that is not making profits, do you call this a business?
No.
So clearly, it tells you that we still have a long way to go. And some of them will not even allow you to implement the policies that will make their clubs better, that will put their clubs in the proper pedestal to make sure they become viable and become viable entities. They won't allow you. Everybody is so figured they are so figured on getting 3 points than any other thing else. You want to develop, you bring a 16, 17-year-old player, they are telling you, oh, Memphis are going to be more. You know, that kind of thing. But we are seeing it in you.
Yeah.
We are seeing it in you. Where 16-year-old boys are playing. They are playing in the Champions League week in, week out. And we experimented it at Nsoatreman. It worked.
Worked.
You saw the likes of Chivanyo, Balak, and co, 16-year-old boys.
Foster, the likes of Foster.
Playing in the CAF Confederations Cup. Went to Constantine, and our most outstanding player was Benjamin Chivanyo. When we finished, the club president of Constantine was asking me, "How old is he?" I said, "He's 16." He said, "This is amazing. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
We have a squad that, if you take good care of it, in the next 2-3 years, you'll be raking in millions." This is what the president of Constantine told me. Some few months down the line, what is happening? Understand? So clearly, the business aspect of the game is something we really need to look at it. And I think club owners need to come to the table and come to the realization that they are not Father Christmas. To be doling out hundreds of thousands every other month to pay players, pay for accommodation, pay for rent, pay for electricity bills, pay for water bills, and on top of it, pay winning bonuses, pay for players to travel, and at the end of the day, you don't make any profit. And what kind of business entity is this? I think we really need to look at shift the attention from the operation grab all 3 points syndrome and shift gear into the next generation of trying to raise the next generation of superstars in our league who can command huge transfer fees from 500,000 US dollars to $1 million to 2 million to 3 million. It's doable. You saw Joseph Pencil moving from Tema Youth, and 3 million came in to the club. So what shows that we don't have the likes of Pencil in the league? We have a lot of them. But if you don't put proper structures in place and run the football club as a business entity, you are never going to get there. So every day, players who play 2-3 years, they are done with their contract, they move to Ethiopia, they move to Bangladesh, they are moving to Iraq, they are moving to all these other leagues. Because if after 3 years, the player is in the Ghana Premier League, he cannot progress, he cannot buy a plot of land, and somebody is offering him 2,000, 3,000 in Ethiopia and Iraq, you think he will not move? He's going to move. But if there is a proper cut-out plan that he knows that he joined the club at 16, by 19, he's moving to a proper European club for a transfer fee of, let's say, even 200,000. You think the player will not stay? He will stay and play and go through that developmental plan. But it's all about the grabbing the 3 points, going after the 3 points, and that is what everybody seems to be so excited about.
Is it because our clubs don't have the personnel, or most of them are lacking the knowledge to understand that football has gone beyond grabbing 3 points only, but it is now a medium where people are making millions of cedis?
I think both. If you look at it from both angles, a lot of the clubs don't want to employ personnel. They don't want to employ qualified personnel. Let me put it that way. Because my services won't come to you for cheap.
Even for free.
When I burn the midnight candle, I sit down. I took my time to go through the Tottenham Hotspur structure to look at what they are doing right, so that for over 10 years, it's a club that has never run at a loss before. What are they doing right? They may not be winning on the field of play, but the shareholders are so excited.
Yeah.
You know why? The shareholders are excited because they will bring in a Dele Ali for 5 million from MK Dons, and they will sell him for huge. They will bring in a hurricane who went through the ranks, joined Arsenal at some point, came back. They brought him from the academy. And he served so well, even to go to Bayern. They still made money. They will bring in a Gareth Bale, who no one will know. And he will later become the most expensive player in the world. There is a structure, there is a system that Daniel Levy has developed over the years. You want to do proper business, you need to sit down and study the models of Real Madrid. You need to sit down and study the models of Tottenham Hotspur, even Arsenal as a football club. How Arsene Wenger managed to build a stadium for this club.
Yeah.
He was not winning, people were making noise, but he was making money. The board of directors were excited. They were happy. These are the people who contribute money to the club. At the end of the season, they are not going to put in money, but they are going to sit down and share profits.
Yeah.
And this is where our clubs are lacking. To bring in the proper personnel, they bring you in, they don't want to give you the free hand to implement what you know and execute it. There are some club CEOs in Ghana at the Premier League level. I know a lot of them, they are not on salary. What is this? For real, a club CEO is not on salary. Now, also on 40 million cabet. It's simple. So, if you're a club owner, you need to understand that people have learned over the years. People have the expertise over the years. They've taken their time to say, this is what I want to do. So when you are bringing in the person, you should be ready to pay. And when you pay, give them the free hand to operate, so that if they don't get the results that you desire, you get rid of them. But if you give me a job and you tie my hands and you don't allow me to operate, then how do you expect me to succeed? I cannot succeed. It's just like employing a coach and saying you are the club CEO or you are the club general manager or you are the club owner. And so, coach, Mawimbo. Oh, that is not football. That is why you employ the coach. If the coach goes into a game and does not get results, on Monday, Tuesday, you call a technical and a managerial meeting. Let the coach come in and explain why he did not get results, especially if it becomes a consistent thing. And let him come and explain why player A is playing ahead of player B and why the results are not coming. If he doesn't give you any tangible reason, you get him fired. It is football. But it's unfortunate that our people need to understand.
I'm not sure I'm the only one who is concerned about this. I'm sure any other person who's into football will also side with me. I mean, if you take out Accra Lions, I stand to be corrected. I mean, they are one of the clubs that you see probably moving most of their players outside, even probably before the season ends. And as compared to the other clubs. But I want to understand this. What is it that some of these lower tier clubs are doing in terms of moving players outside? We have seen a couple of Division 2 players in Accra, in Kumasi, moving their players outside. What do you think they are doing right that most of these premier clubs are failing to understand and emulate them?
I think the lower division clubs are doing something right. They are doing something right. And that is the way to go. And it is the reason why a lot of people keep saying we don't have quality at the Premier League level. You won't get quality because the quality players are being sold by Division 3 and Division 2 clubs. Instead of them to have allowed them to pass through the football channel from Division 2, probably join a Division 1 or come straight to a Premier League club. So the Premier League club will add value to the players. Even when they have sold the players, to pay training and compensation to these lower division clubs, some of the Premier clubs don't want to pay. They buy players for as low as 40, 50,000. They don't want to pay. So if the lower tier club has an opportunity to sell a player directly to you, and he's even going to take 50,000, knowing that he has training and compensation all to himself, you think he will give the player to you as a Premier League club? He's not going to do that. So I think that the football chain, the transfer chain must be respected, especially by clubs at the top level. If you buy a player from the lower leagues, pay them so they can get some coins to also buy water for those behind. When you sell the player to a foreign club and they pay transfer fee, give them what is due them. Give them their 30%, 20%, whatever you agree with them. When training and compensation comes, don't try to cheat the players. And it is one of the FIFA sat down, realized that look, African clubs are cheats, and that is why they came out with the FIFA clearinghouse. So now you don't even have access to be able to be the one to share the money. FIFA themselves, they will cheat. You understand? They will do it because we've done it over and over and over, and clubs at the lower levels are suffering. So now that some of them are having contact, you see Division 2 clubs sending their reps to Europe, go, they are negotiating deals, and Premier League clubs are here, they are not selling players. When last did House of Folk sell a player to Europe? Until recently, when they sent Sandy to Denmark. When last did Kotoko send a player to Europe? But these are our biggest brands. And these are things they should be doing every other year. Every other year. Because hitherto, when we were growing up, every player in Ghana wants to play for either Hearts of Oak or Asante Kotoko. Today, the story is not the same. You will see Kotoko. I signed 3 players to Nsoatreman when I was general manager. I was sitting down with one of them when the Asante Kotoko coach was calling him.
Oh,
He didn't pay. I was sitting down negotiating with him. There was another one. I was sitting negotiating with him in a hotel in Accra here when Hearts of Oak was calling. But I was able to sign the player. Nsoatreman, he didn't go to Hearts. He didn't go to Koto. That should tell you that they believed in the vision. They believed that with that particular vision that I sold to them, they could easily move out from there. And they joined. But hitherto, who is Nsoatreman to go and be competing for a player with Hearts of Oak? You will not. But what they were offering the player in terms of salaries was more than what we were offering them. But the player saw a proper cut-out plan within that setup and said, I really want to be here. So I think that we need to get back to where we think we should be able to put out proper structures. Look, what is wrong with Hearts of Oak? You have Royal Oaks, you have Aurora, you have 2 feeder clubs. How do you go out to buy players? Who does that? You are buying players in the open market. You cannot promote. So who are the players at Aurora and Royal Oaks? Who are they? If they cannot be promoted to the first team, it tells you that they are simply not good enough. Not good enough. But these are players who are on salary. And it will surprise you to know that there are players who are 22 years and they are still with Aurora. What are they doing there? If a 16-year-old is playing at the Premier League level, you are 22 and you are still at the youth side. Come on. This is not football.
but with that, would you say the blame should be shifted to CEOs, general managers, or even the whole club as a structure itself?
It's the club as a structure because if you are the owner and you are employing somebody, you should employ somebody who understands these things. Okay? To tell you that, okay, I feel this is how I want to run the structure. I want to pick from 14 to 16 to be here. I want from 16 to 18 to be here. If you pass 18 years, sorry, you cannot be playing for the youth team. If at 18 and you cannot get promotion to the first team, we are either selling you out or we let go of you. So there is a clear-cut structure. You know very well that ABCD needs to be done.
Right, Ebuson for a try on your Sanso Babium, Lanos Nate TV, so YouTube. Mr. Eric Alagidede and any common former general manager Edema Nsoatreman Football Club, or also astute football administrator or Ghana. Now, in some of which you go here, I bet you say you have to subscribe to the channel, like, share, not fire them, not for commenting. But yes, you did say well in Nsoatreman FC. I want to ask you, do you think that you got the position based on your works and as a hard works and as a political affiliation because the CEO and as a club owner is a politician in the National Patriotic Party.
Well, if I tell you how I got the Nsoatreman job, it's also funny. Funny enough, may apply a good idea with number one Nigeria. I had gone to visit Rivers United. It was right after the Congress in Kumasi. And almost sending me ticket. And maybe flight. Until Congress, no, the Fanajo bus. I'm a Panama flight in there. So straight to the airport. And I'm a boy. You know me, Lagos. Then me a call from the president of the Chelsea Football Club. And I found it. Because you, Oh no, I catch them. Yeah, some of me do more person member. But on person me go one swat for. Now we see mini Ghana, no Nigeria. Remember the following week into me bar. We'll talk. Into me bedroom Ghana no. As KTC I called me, and also one guy. He's here. Let me see. No, they may call Honorable Ignatius Babu office. Now, Martin Edimbe, I had seen him once during the playoffs between them and Tamale City at their gas stadium. I went to meet him, and also Saturday there, why busy now? Yembra the following day. But the following day, I met Nana Kwame at the office, and also a person here me interview. Nah. Let me say okay. So, many not to say, you know, be two questions. Me answer you, yeah, no, say interview, no, he's convinced.
Wow.
Yeah, it didn't even go beyond 3 minutes. And also he is convinced. Now, he's been doing, he's been doing research about you, and why I'm convinced, say, what he has seen on the internet, what it takes to run his mouth. So, I did not even agree in terms of Sika Assembly. I didn't agree anything with him because obviously he's heard that another club were interested in my services. And opportunity to my school. I was not listening to the show. Vice announced on the show also said, I have been appointed as the new general manager of Nsoatreman. And it was a shock because I just woke up from bed and congratulations were just pouring in all over from Libya. And I'm like, what's happening? And vice announcement say I appointed me. So this is how I got the job.
Nsoatreman, I mean, when you took over, what were some of the things that you did at Emma Club and yeah, opportunity to even play in the FA Cup final because that was the first time a club participating in that highest competition in terms of African football?
Well, first of all, my name is something was striking because new team were back Premier League. The whole of the season, but we need one away match. That was even a local derby against the Chelsea. And about draw back against fellow newcomers, Kotoku Royals, but we saw the away matches. So when I sat down and I did the maths, I realized that the home points alone were not enough. And so it wasn't surprising they finished somewhere around 13 for 14. I told myself that look, in the first year, we need stability. We need stability to make sure the team stays in the league. And then we can do exploits in the second year. So clearly, we were very clear in our mind with the kind of recruitment the likes of Eric Osebos, Wabo Olympics, Ababo Lagos cities, Sadat, Abo Dreams, Ababo Lagos cities, Oyo Betis, Mohamed Isaka, Wabo Emena Sharks, Ababo Lagos cities. So we picked all these boys. We brought in Manaf, Atsofu, Ariti, and then we brought him in. So we decided to go for very experienced players to augment the team. And once we did, alongside with some younger players, once we did that, we realized that we winning the first ever game in the Premier League against the Chem 2-0. That was Nsoatreman. Then we realized that stability now is there. And we had a lot of time, like a month plus, to go and camp at Kukuantulu. And we had all the resources available. We played an international friendly with Aska Dikara of Togo. We lost by a goal to nil. We came back. So we prepared the team so well during pre-season. In the course of the season, it was clear. The people realized that, the Amanaso people realized that I think a year team. So that was how we came into the season. We were constantly in the top four. We would drop constantly, climb up, sometimes go second, go third. So we were in there. Then we started the FA Cup. Once we got into the quarterfinals, I told you, I said, look, Marshall, it's possible to win the FA Cup. Let's keep our focus there. Let's leave the league and keep our focus on the FA Cup. But our focus was much more on the FA Cup. And it was not surprising we got to the finals and we won it.
You got one of the youngest discovery, Foster, and it was quite surprising. Say all of a sudden the boys started making waves, and yet it is some time ago we say hats to folk. Eba no so open. You made mention say this player and as a first time this is the prize that would be better to show and it got everybody surprised. Do you think that it was just a mere talk and I say his quality no one merited that prize now the man had to folk?
Foster Petogbo is top quality. Trust me. And his confidence level is something else. Even at that age, at 16, when he walked into the Nsoatreman team, he could walk up to me and tell me, let him start you. Let him start it.
Okay.
And I like players who are self-confident. And the striking thing was that Maxwell knows the boy from his days at the U17. So he knows his quality. So he started introducing him
Okay.
small. He's one of the darling boys among the Nsoatre fans. If he's on the bench and he's coming in, the whole stadium is up on their feet because they know what he brings. And when I first brought the player and I said the Premier League was not ready for him, people thought it was just mere talk. But for the few people who had the opportunity to watch Foster Petobo, everybody agrees that his quality is up there. And when we go to the FA Cup final, he was a second half substitute. He was in school, he had to come back, train with the team that we to play in the cup final. When he came in, everybody saw what he did. When the penalty shootout, we had the last penalty kick to win it. All the senior players were running away. Everybody was, oh, I have cramps. I cannot kick. I don't have. Everybody. He walked up to the coach and said, Coach, I want to play. The person will ball penalty. And the coach said that. But if all the big boys are running away and the 16-year-old boy goes and he loses the penalty kick, it's no news. Go. And the coaches gave him back and go and play. And he went, took the ball. As soon as he took the ball, I was up there. As soon as he took the ball, I told the person I was sitting with my professor, my big brother, the professor, and then one of my friends, KY, who had come all the way from Takwa to come and support. I was sitting with them and I told them I'm going into the inner perimeter because the game is over. Once he took the ball, and the guy is like, you are so confident. And I said, yes, I know this boy. I know what he will do. He went and then he put the goalkeeper somewhere and scored. And he won us the FA Cup. So when I was mentioning figures in terms of the kind of transfer fee we could command, I wasn't just joking because Leverkusen, Bayern 04 Leverkusen, the German champions, came all the way from Germany and picked this 16-year-old boy. They paid his flight, paid his mother's flight, paid another person's flight to take him to Germany. He was in Germany with Bayern 04 Leverkusen for a month. Yes, so how many 16-year-old boys get that recognition that the German champions are in town? And throughout the whole Ghana, they didn't get any other player to go to Germany with. And it was him. So if I mention 1.2 million euros, is it above him? It is not. It is because we are used to selling players at 100,000, 200,000. So when you mention some of these figures, people don't know. I'm a scout. I go out to scout. I scout for players. When I see a quality player, I know. When I see a player who is worth €1 million, I know. When I see a player who has what it takes to become a top level superstar, I know. I can project and tell you that this player in the next 2, 3 years, he will be a big player. And he will be a big player if he takes care of himself and he remains disciplined and listens to instructions. So a lot of our boys, they have that quality. One of the things that we lack so much in our game is coaching. Coaches who could transform some of these talents into world-class players. That is something that we lack a lot. And sometimes the transition from one generation to the next generation becomes problematic. And that these are things we really need to work on. These are things we really need to look at because the psyche of young players is totally different from a matured player. There are things you cannot do with some of these young players, and you need to know how to handle them to be able to go with them and get the best out of them. I speak to a lot of these young players. Chivanyo came to Nsoatreman when he was virtually hitting 16. Foster joined Nsoatreman at 16. Michael Akabala joined Nsoatreman at 16. There is another chap, Osafo Entry, 80, joined Nsoatreman at 16. So before I left the team in December, I had as many as 16-year-old boys in that team.
And you had all of them registered on the transfer market. How do you do that? As
Yes,
low as 16 years.
I do that because I understand the football business and transfer market. If you want to sell a player now, and you tell any European team or a scout or an agent that I have a 16, 17-year-old boy who plays for
Premier League club.
Nsoatreman in the Premier League, the first thing they're going to ask you, does he play? Okay, yes, he plays. You have his transfer market.
Okay.
You say no, you don't have. So for a lot of these boys, I paid. I paid as much as $100 to get them on transfer market, and some of the monies I even paid, I've not recovered them yet. But I feel that is the way to go. When you talk about the hottest prospect in town, and everybody is talking about Foster Petomo, and you can't find him on transfer market. Come on, what are you doing? And as soon as I put him on transfer market, he started playing. Within 2 weeks to 1 month, they had already rated him 20,000 euros on transfer market.
Super.
So this is the more he plays, he
The
builds
more
up the
the
transfer
market
market
value goes
profile,
high.
and it keeps rising. So if he stays in that club, by the time he will turn 18 and he plays regularly on regular basis, don't be surprised you see that his market value has risen to maybe 150,000, 200,000, and all that. So this is how you run a professional football business. You need to put there are Premier League clubs who still don't have players on transfer market.
Yeah.
So what business exactly are you conducting? Somebody is going to ask, what business are you conducting? Because sometimes you need to part with money. If you have 30 players, okay, and you want to put all of them on transfer market, and it's even costing you $100, that's 3,000. It's money, but it's nothing. It's money, but it's nothing. Showcase your players to the world. Transfer market is following them. The more minutes they play, they are capturing all the statistics. When someone is looking for the player, that is where the first place they would want to go and look at. How many games has he played? How many goals have you scored? Your assists, your yellow cards, your red cards. They will go there and check all that before they would even want to come back to you and commence negotiations. And these are things, there are people saying they are doing football, but they don't even know them. They don't understand them. They don't know how they work. So how do you operate in 2025 if you don't understand the concept of transfer market?
Do you think when it comes to the act of hooliganism, there should be more to this than we always see? FA giving ban to clubs and huge funds of money imposed on players and then the club. Do you think there should be more to that in terms of cutting down the act of hooliganism?
I have my reservations with some of the punishments. I have always advocated that every community, the people in the community, they love their football. And every club owner and every administrator, they know the troublemakers in that community.
Yeah.
So if we want to stop hooliganism, it can be stopped. I was at Nsoatreman for a year and a half. Did you ever hear that someone was beaten at Nsoatreman?
No.
I was at Karela for 4.5 years. No one was ever beaten at Karela. The following season, I left. The following season, Midiama got attacked. Players' heads were broken. Asante Kotoko got attacked. There is a way to go about it. You see, when you need to associate with the people in the community, you need to understand. And some of these acts of hooliganism are actually orchestrated by club owners and the administrators. If we want it to stop, it can stop. So I think that once the people love their football, don't ban the venue. But nobody will watch the game so that they are in the town. They've seen that Kotoko are in Nsoatreman. They are playing, but they can't watch. There is nothing more painful than to find a club, let them stay at their home, and play behind closed doors. Bring 100 policemen, let them police the entire stadium. Nobody makes a way into the stadium. I think when you do that, even the fans themselves, when they see somebody trying to misbehave, they will tell them, Masa, Obama ye nya ball in there. So because of that, they will come at the venue. I think banning the venues is not the way to go, but rather letting them play behind closed doors and finding them big time. For me, it's a much more better way to do.
Do you feel betrayed by Nsoatreman? I mean, following the comments you made concerning the price of goods at the port when you were clearing some cases. After some few months, you left the club, but the club made a statement distancing themselves from your comments. When you saw that press release, did you felt betrayed by the club?
Yes, I felt betrayed, honestly, because I spoke as an industry player, and in that interview, yes, it was within the political season. Yes, I was working for a politician, and he was a big shot in the NPP, and they had promised to give passes to clubs and all that. And I felt that was to go and clear 48 kg of jerseys at the port and pay over 11,000 Ghana cedis. I felt it was huge. And he was a politician. But what about other club owners who are not politicians? Maybe he had the money at the time to pay. What about other club owners who will not have the money to pay? What about a Division Two somewhere who wants to probably bring some jerseys from abroad? What about a First Division who wants to import some jerseys into the country? How do they clear for all these huge? How do they pay? So I spoke as an industry player, but for them to have taken it politically and to the point that you release a statement against your own general manager, what it simply meant was that any decision I take as the general manager of the club, they didn't really care. So if we were going to die, we were going to die alone. They didn't really care. I felt that was amateur on the part of the club, and there were people who were calling me to resign.
Okay.
I said no. I don't resign that easily. I know when to jump the ship, and I will stay on and fight. Me, I'm not a coward. Anybody who knows me knows that me, I will stay on, and I stayed on. Took the team to Africa, started the league. When the time was due for me to go, I decided it myself. I told them, I said, it's time. This is the time the team actually needs me most. But this is the time I will also jump the boat. Because that act of releasing a press statement to disassociate themselves from my comments, to score political points, I felt it was unnecessary. I felt it was amateurish on the part of the owners of the club. And so I decided to stay on. And when I stayed on, they didn't know what was up my sleeves. I just worked, did everything I had to do. I never for a day said because of this I will hold back. I served the club diligently to the best of my ability. When the time was due, on the 12th of December, I just felt that I've had enough. It's time for me to move on, jump into a new chapter, and that was it. So I ended the journey.
We'll be leaving very soon. Let's look at the Blasters. The decision of the FA to maintain Coach Otuado came as a huge surprise to them, most especially looking at the way he failed to qualify the team for the 2025 AFCON in Morocco. We drew two games and then we lost four, and then quite surprising. Do you think it was a very fair decision from the FA to maintain Otuado ahead of the World Cup qualifiers?
From where I sit, my decision has always been one. Once Soto failed to qualify, first of all, I was never in favor of his return because Otto was given the job on a silver platter to qualify us. He qualified us, took us to the World Cup, and decided to leave. Was he sacked? No one sacked him. Decided to go back to Germany. He felt he was much more better in Germany than in Ghana. So, in the first place, what was the decision to go and bring him back? It looks like virtually we went to beg him to come back. He came, and we all saw the results. It was disastrous. I felt he should have been sacked. Nonetheless, the decision makers thought otherwise. They said he should stay. I will support. Once he stays, it is the duty of every single Ghanaian to make sure we all support him to qualify us to the World Cup in 2026. We need to put the AFCON non-qualification behind us and focus all our attention on the next World Cup qualifiers and make sure we win those two games to put us in pole position for the World Cup in Canada, America, and Mexico. And I think that from where I sit, with the preparation ongoing, I think we have what it takes to qualify. So every Ghanaian, I mean everybody out there should be proud that when we qualify as a nation, there are huge benefits. There are people who go to Canada and won't return. There are people who go to America and won't come back. Even Mexico. There are people who will go and won't return. You know, beyond that, there will be money coming in from FIFA. I mean, to Ghana as a nation. Beyond that, if we manage to get local players in there are monies that will be paid to their clubs. And I think the benefits are huge. We should all be interested in making sure that Ghana qualifies to the next Mundial.
The Blaster squad was released early this morning. A very surprising one. I mean, there are some local boys, the likes of Benjamin Asai was there. And do you think it's a fair deal on the side of our premier teams that we have about 2-3 players in the squad, or we should have more than
I
that?
was actually advocating for like 5, you know, because all these foreign-based players will normally invite. Match day squad, how many of them will make it? You know, worst case scenario, you will have 18 on the bench. 18. 11 will start. The other 7, maximum 9 will be on the bench. So if you put together, it's 20. So if you bring 23 players, what happens to the other 3? Why can't they be local players? To go and have a feel with the Black Stars, to go and train with the Black Stars, have a feel of how it feels like to be in the national team camp. When they qualify, they can also get some qualification bonus. All these things, they boost the local economy. You know, it's a local player, he joins the Black Stars, if they are getting qualification bonus of 100,000, you also get some. You know, and the money gets to stay here, right here. You know, so for me, I think that going forward, Otto has done well. Left to me alone, Benjamin Asare should even start. I think he should start in post. I think Razak Simpson has already proven that he has what it takes to start. Jerry Afriye is now a professional. He should be starting in that game, because if we are really looking for goal scorers, I think the young chap is proving that he's become the next person that we can actually rely on in terms of goals and all that. Over the weekend, he was having a knock, but he came on, started the game, and scored twice. You know, so I think that fair. We have a lot of players also who are injured, and I think those who have been called upon should be able to do the double over Chad and Madagascar, and then that will put us in a pole position to qualify for the World Cup.
We are leaving. My very last question. Currently, you are not affiliated to any club, or you have no contract with any club. How soon are we seeing you on the field again? Oh, it's goodbye to football for now.
No. This is what we love doing. I will be back. For now, me, I'm here. I'm waiting for the next offer to come. If a team shows up and the offer is good, why not? In the meantime, I'm working on a new project, and that new project is to bring the next 3 superstars in Ghana. I'm combing the length and breadth of the country to come out with them. I've already discovered one who is 14 years, currently with the national youth team, and he is an attacker. I have 2 more. I want to bring out the next superstars in the next 2 years. The whole world will hear about them. This is my next project. I will go around, I will comb, I will look for them. And when I look for them, everybody will get to know that these are the guys I'm talking about. And so that is what I'm doing now. But in the meantime, I'll be back to football very soon. Once an offer pops up and it's good, we'll get it. But in the meantime, I'm doing consulting for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Eric.
Yeah.
Once a good offer comes in, he's ready to offer his services. This is where we draw down the curtains on today's interview. My name is Nsoatreman. Here is Nsoatreman TV on YouTube. My guest on the show was Mr. Eric Alagidede, the former general manager for Nsoatreman Football Club, the former CEO for Koforidua Sushen FC, and then the former communications director for Karela United. He's an astute football administrator as well, and then a football scout as well. Like he rightly stated, I mean, it's not goodbye for football. He's still doing some few underground works, and then soon we'll see him back on the field as well. Goodbye, and then do subscribe to the channel, like, and then put your comments under it. Bye.